Peace. This is Wise for Wise Words Media. I'm back at it again. Had a week off, man. Was sick, under the weather, and things were kind of hard. But yeah, I'm back at it. Finally got my voice back, and right in time for my daughter's birthday. So that's great news right there in and of itself. But here we are, Top 5 Tuesdays, Vacation Edition. Not driving to work today. So, where do we begin? Today, we're going to go with top 5 point guards of all time. The point guard position is very near and dear to me. That's something that, growing up, I played that position. And I like to compose my top 5 list based on guys that are pure point guards in every sense of the word, not just a shooting guard playing in the point guard role. So, here we go. At number 5 of all time, I'm going to go with Steph Curry. Steph Curry is the 5th greatest point guard to ever play the game. Steph Curry is an grossly underrated passer. His passing ability is phenomenal. A lot of people don't give him enough credit for his passing ability and his ability to break down the defense and then give the little inside look to your loonies, or to back in the day they had like Spate, Big Spate or Draymond. And so Steph Curry's ability to break down the defense, he's dropped plenty of defenders trying to guard him. His hand was crazy. And, he's a super splash brother. We know that. But one of the most underrated aspects of his game is his ability to set others up. His ability to break down the defense and set others up. He's a very good passer, very skilled passer. And he's just one of the 5 greatest players to ever play the game, period. So, fitting, he deserves that 5th spot in that top 5. Number 4, 4th best point guard of all time. And now when you're dealing with the 4, you're dealing with the Mount Rushmore. One of the faces in the Mount Rushmore of professional basketball's point guard position is none other than one of my personal all-time favorites. Love this dude, John Stockton. John Stockton, Gonzaga's own. First of all, John Stockton put Gonzaga on the map. He was the first real big-time player out of that small-time school. Today, for those who are watching the game today, at a younger age, they may not realize that Gonzaga wasn't the big program it is today. And guys like John Stockton put that school on the map. John Stockton is one of the most skilled players and most underappreciated players I've ever seen. Nobody brings this guy's name up. He's so underrated that one time, if you watch the Dream Team special, when they were in Barcelona, John Stockton is walking through the streets of Barcelona with his family, with his wife, his kids, and people are just walking right by. He's got a Dream Team shirt on, but they're painted in cartoon characters. And he's just walking up to everybody. He's like, "Do you know who this guy is?" He's pointing out at different, because they had all the members of the Dream Team. And he's talking to these people as John Stockton. And he's like, "You know who's pointing at Michael Jordan?" They're like, "Yeah, Michael Jordan." "Oh, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird." And he's like, yeah, anybody else you recognize here? And he's on the shirt, and people are not recognizing him. And he's walking through, stopping people, random people in the streets. It's one of the funniest things. But John Stockton is one of my personal favorite players ever, because he was so tenacious, hard-nosed defender. But his IQ was phenomenal. John Stockton knew how to read a defense. He knew how to pass the ball precisely. His bounce passes would skid right past the fingers of a defender, right into the hands of either one of his big men or his favorite target, Karl Malone. That pick and roll, that pick and roll was like it was like a Tyson uppercut. You knew it was coming at some point, but you can't stop it. And that pick and roll was one of the most successful plays in NBA history. You could put that John Stockton, Karl Malone pick and roll right next to the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar skyhook. Like there is just certain moves or certain plays that you just know when this goes down, it's gonna be successful 9 out of 10 times, and that Stockton Malone pick and roll is that. Um, Not only that, but John Stockton is also the all-time. He leads the NBA. He's been retired for almost 20 years, and he leads the NBA still all-time leader in two statistical categories: all-time leader in assists and all-time leader in steals. Johnny Boy can defend. Man, I used to watch John Stockton. I used to study him, and I used to just be like, man, I want to play like this brother. My game was more shake and bake. Like a Tim Hardaway or Iverson, but the IQ, the mindset of reading the court, reading the defenders, reading my fellow men as they cut the baseline and orchestrating an offense was John Stockton. I've studied Stockton tremendously, tremendously. Stockton and another point guard, which we'll get to later, were the two men that I tried to like model my game after. So yeah, number 4 is John Stockton. Number 3, we gotta go old school with this one. The Big O, Oscar Robertson. Oscar Robertson was one of those guys that he embodied. He embodied that position of point guard and redefined it. Because now you have the guy who's supposed to be the smallest guy on the court. He was a rebounding machine. And not only was he a rebounding machine, but he was also scoring and getting assists as a point guard, which led to the first ever in history player to average a triple-double for an entire season. And that was done by Oscar Robertson. Oscar Robertson averaged a triple-double. You know how hard that is to do? To rebound, assist, and score? So you rebound and you're in there, and especially at that time, at that time you looking at dudes that's like 7'2", you know what I'm saying? And he's only about 6 foot, and he was grabbing rebounds on these guys. Then from playing the paint, now you got the ball. You got to orchestrate the offense, and also scoring. So to do all of those things means that you are going so hard during the game that you want to go beyond your responsibility. Your duty as a point guard is mainly to orchestrate the offense. You're like the quarterback on the court, and he went beyond that. He wanted to rebound, help his team as much as possible, and was the first player to ever do it. And one of the only players to ever do it. The only other person, because nobody ever thought. You go back in time, nobody ever thought that that single season of averaging a triple-double, nobody thought it would ever happen again. It was up there with like the Will Chamberlain 100 points. Things that people thought will never happen again, or things will never happen again. And it did when one of my main men, y'all know who it is, Big Russ we trust. Russell Westbrook came through some 50 years later and ended up averaging a triple-double. Not once. He didn't just average a triple-double. He averaged a triple-double the year he won MVP in 2016. But not just once. Then he did it again, twice. But then he didn't stop 2 times. He averaged a triple-double for 3 seasons. So Oscar Robertson's career went from that historic season went from people thinking it was never gonna happen to Westbrook doing it 3 times. So shout to Big Russ, peace to Big Russell Westbrook. In Big Russ we trust. But anyway, yeah, that's Oscar Robertson, number 3 of all time. Number 2, the great, the great Isaiah Thomas. The second greatest point guard in the history of the NBA is Isaiah Thomas. That man, Isaiah Thomas, when you could give Michael Jordan nightmares, you're doing a lot. You know what I'm saying? Isaiah was the ultimate leader. He was the smallest and the most friendliest looking of the bad boys with that smile that he used to always light up the camera with. But Isaiah Thomas was a mean guy. That brother was mean, tough. You know, he embodied Chicago and he brought that with him to the basketball court. He was an amazing ball handles. That guy he's top 5 of all time ball handles. Like, then Isaiah was the type that he would, as a point guard, set up his team for offense. However, he was so skilled offensively that he could take over a game at any time. He could have led the league in scoring. But as a point guard, he'd rather have distributed. But there was times where Isaiah had to take the role of the scorer, and he was unstoppable. Remember the game where he sprained his ankle and on one foot, chopping teams up, getting and ones all time. Yo, Isaiah was a bad man. When you could give Michael Jordan headaches, you are the truth. You are the truth. Isaiah Thomas is another guy, man. You know, due to politics, he couldn't participate in the NBA Dream Team, but that he deserved that spot there, man. Isaiah deserved that spot in the NBA Dream Team, and you know, there's no way Christian Laettner should have won, even though you know they were trying to like regulate it to where one of the college players would go, which it should have been Chris Webber, but that's another story for another day. But yeah, Isaiah should have been on that Dream Team, and you know, politics got in the way, but talking about one of the greatest point guards that's ever played. Tenacious little guy. And he is the father of the combo guard. You know, Iverson ended up being the first, like, real true combo guard. But Iverson comes from that Isaiah tree of guys that can take over a game being the little guy. And number 1, by now you guessed it, the greatest point guard of all time, the number 1 greatest point guard of all time, none other than the Magic Man himself, Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson comes to the league as a rookie, wins an NBA championship, helps lead his team to an NBA championship as a rookie. His center Kareem Abdul-Jabbar goes down with an injury. As a point guard, he goes and plays center and has an amazing game to propel his team to win. And, you know, he had his historic battles with Larry Bird in college, and then they came and transferred over to the NBA. And the story of Larry and Magic deserve a whole Tuesday, talk about a Tuesday in and of itself, man. Those two, you know, they brought the NBA to where it's at today. And, you know, others have, you know, taken that and raised it to higher heights. But the NBA definitely was put on the map because of Magic and Bird. And Magic Johnson playing that point guard position, to this day, there's nobody that with the no looks, the yeah, nobody the pointing this way, throw it that way, like there's nobody. I can watch. That's the other guy who I modeled my game after growing up. I used to watch a lot of Magic Johnson and John Stockton and just study Magic's passing and John Stockton's ability to orchestrate and tell people where to go when. Like those two guys together, that was my game combined. I loved both of their games. And Magic, you know, 5-time NBA champion. He is Finals MVP. He is one of the greatest players that's ever played the game, and the the guy has the best name because some of the passes he's done and some of them layups he's is like pure magic. And the way he used to set up Kareem and my Coop and James Worthy and Byron, like just I could watch tapes of him all day, man. It was a sweet science, an art, the way that he handled the rock and distributed throughout the court. He made Showtime Lakers, and Showtime Lakers was um is one of the greatest stories and teams in history, and they were led by that man, Magic Johnson. So there you have it. Um, top five Tuesdays, top five point guards. Number five, we got Steph Curry. Four, John Stockton. Three, Oscar Robertson. Two, Isaiah Thomas. Number one, Magic Johnson. So that's my list. What do you think about it? What's your list? Leave a comment, hit the like. Let's build. Peace.